Well, I sure hope somebody picks up that phone.
Do what?
Because I f***ing called it!
I guess it's not something to be proud of when it's so often requested, but still. Anyway, let's talk about how Todoroki wins. Yes, I didn't stutter. There's really not much to say here, and somehow I've still got a full page of stuff to talk about. So, Atla recently got some buff involving Toph, you know, the character that definitely beats Gaara. That puts Zuko at town level. I think it's got something to do with shockwaves, Most logical, Lord Megatron. And that buff put Zuko around 14 kilotons of TNT. Combine that with his Mach 500 lightning timing speed and scaling, and that he has swords, which are blades, and blades have been shown to cut Todoroki just fine in the past, and it does kind of look like Zuko wins. But then Hiroaka also got buffs recently. Specifically with Todoroki himself. It's the heaven-piercing ice wall. The big stadium one, that had a lowball calc of 100 kilotons of TNT. And of course, you can scale him to Deku and Ida and Bakugo, which would put him around the Mark 250 or so lightning timing feats from the movie, where they dodge lightning. It's rough, but that's the stat line right now. Yeah, you could say Zuko has blades, so yeah, he can cut Todoroki's head off, but what are the chances Zuko's going to start with the blades and not with a big fuck-off fireball? And keep in mind, Todoroki has regular experience fighting characters several times faster than him, such as Deku, Ida, and Stain. And that Zuko's swords are hard to call standard, but you know, it's fine to include them, okay? It's fine to include them, they're going to be in the fight, you know they're going to be in the fight, because you can do cool stuff with them. But both their blogs don't really paint it good for Zuko either. His scaling is fine, but it doesn't come close to the heaven-piercing ice wall. I mean, the 100 kilotons is a low end. It's more reliably in the low megaton range. Yeah, no comet is going to help with something that rough, buddy. People say Zuko has more training and experience, and that's true if you use the comics and Korra. This has nothing to do with the actual fight, because they're not going to consider this. But if you look at just Atlas specifically, he's the same age as Todoroki, and Todoroki was also trained since he was young by Endeavor, and he has a lot of experience fighting villains, while Zuko spent ages on a fucking boat doing jack and shit for most of his days. I'd say if we look exclusively at Atlas Zuko versus Todoroki, experience and skill is probably more or less even, but obviously with the comics and Korra, Zuko has the advantage in experience and skill, though I doubt it'd matter.
But while skill and experience are incredibly important, it doesn't always triumph over raw power.
Yeah, that. This ain't looking good for old Dante Bosco. Alright, but what did I think of Beerus versus Galaxia? That was pretty good, wasn't it? I have some issues that I'll have to talk about, and no, it has nothing to do with Beerus winning. Pretty much all of Galaxia's supposed hacks got debunked over time as it led up to the episode. Some of the things I brought up actually turned out to not be true, because I was misinformed. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I can't help that, but because I only have a little bit of time to do research before I have to put out the video. Though I guess in this case I could have spent more time researching, but I had other videos I wanted to put out too. Yeah, but as the hacks got debunked, it was looking pretty sorry for Galaxia. Now, I could talk about the positives, but I want to save that for the end-of-year retrospective. You can imagine this episode is getting a pretty good score. I mean, I fucking love Beerus. He's there with Vegeta and Piccolo and Super Broly as one of my 5 favorite characters in Dragon Ball. The 5th is probably Frieza? I'm not sure. Probably Frieza, though. Anyway, my issues are not huge. I love it. I love this episode, don't get me wrong, but I can criticize things that I like. If you have a problem with the fact that I can criticize something I like, then unsubscribe, because you're probably too young for my content. First off, I'm not really into scaling Beerus and Goku to the shockwaves. I mean, I get they moved in tandem with it. However, if you do not know that they moved in tandem with it, it raises the question of why would they scale? This shock, like, it's hard to explain. I just feel like if they're not moving in tandem with it, there's no reason to scale them to the shockwave. And I feel like that it should have been mentioned, at least a little bit, otherwise people could be confused. Now, I was not personally that confused because I understood the reason why, because I had context behind it. However, the thing with Death Battle is that it's so widely known, and it's got such a huge scope compared to most Versus series, that it needs to be clear on these things that the average rando would not know. That is why it could help to maybe be a little bit longer, maybe just add another 2 minutes, round it to a good 20 minutes, just to explain these small things that a casual audience would not be able to really get. Like, they wouldn't get why they scale. Speaking of being confused, I was also a little bit confused by the ending speed comparison. First off, I also think scaling Galaxia to Sailor Moon's attack also needs a bit more explanation. Did Galaxia manage to dodge this attack? Is this attack equivalent to the normal attacking speed of Sailor Moon or Eternal Sailor Moon? Is this just her regular style of attacking? This looks explicitly like a special attack that Sailor's regular punching speed would not scale to. Maybe it does though, like does Galaxia scale? I'm not sure. In this case, I don't have the context behind the reasoning for Galaxia scaling to this attack. I'm sure it's there, I don't know it, so I was a bit confused because they didn't explain it, and I believe they should have been explained a bit more thoroughly. I believe the explanation would be that Sailor Moon can create this light with an attack, so the same energy that was moving that fast is what powers her, I guess. So you could say that she can use that exact same energy to make her body and her moves as fast as that light, I guess, but that wasn't explained. I trust Tiki, and you should too, because if you're sending him death threats over this, I will actually force feed you your own intestines. So I have faith that there is a reason for Galaxia scaling, but I believe the episode should have made that clear. Additionally, the ending screen shows the wrong feet when they scale their speeds to each other. I actually took the previous number and converted it into kilometers per second just to be sure, and yes, this number is pretty much the same as the Sailor Moon feat. However, this distinctly shows a completely different feat that was just briefly mentioned and wasn't given much context at all, really. Aside from that, my issues stem with the animation. First, credit to Blythe Renee, probably fucked that up, for her performance. But I wasn't sold on some of her takes. I think the main one that bothered me was, "Witness my infinite power!" Which actually made me cringe a little. But that might have been because the line itself was cringy, and not because of the performance, I can't really say. But the voice didn't take me out of the episode nearly as much as Esdeath's did, so yeah. And of course, River Vitae did a fantastic job with Beerus, just fantastic, man. That was great performance. Back on Galaxia though, the more I watched the episode, the more I disliked the sprite. I don't know if this is custom, I think it's from the NES fighting game maybe, or the beat 'em up, but I don't remember Galaxia appearing in those. But I haven't played them, so I don't know. But it does not mesh very well with the extreme Butoden sprites for Beerus. But the bigger problem for me is Galaxia's expressions. She ends up looking like she's in a Dorkly animation more than a death battle. Shit, my dog just went ballistic because I was talking about Dorkly. And I'm just not really a fan. They're really goofy and they make me laugh even when I'm supposed to take this thing seriously. Speaking of which, this episode's pretty funny, isn't it? A lot of the jokes land pretty well, and I love Beerus being able to banter. I think my favorite gag is when they clash and they end up on separate planets as a result, and Galaxia subjugates the natives on hers, but Beerus just obliterates the planet and leaves. I love it. However, unfortunately, that was the extent of the destruction, more or less. Starting with Earth blowing up, I did expect more blowing things up than I got. A few planets blow up and the sun dies. That's it. That's pretty much equal with Chuck vs. Segata and Thanos vs. Darkseid, meaning we've yet to get a battle that does anything like destroy galaxies. The fact that this episode has a level of destruction that's almost the same as Donkey vs. Predator amuses me. We could have easily had their punches create a shockwave across the entire galaxy as a reference to, well, those. And I want to know, I have no idea what this black-purple ink thing in Thanos vs. Darkseid is. I've heard people say it's supposed to imply the universe is being destroyed and recreated. I don't fucking see it. The sun's not back. It's probably just a regular shockwave. It looks weird to me. So yeah, I really don't think with characters whose entire thing is blowing shit up on a mass scale, they should just be blowing up a few planets and a star. You know these characters get ridiculous in power when a star is not mass scale destruction. I mean, to be fair, I am glad they didn't get the Wonder Woman vs. She-Ra treatment where all they did was blow up a couple trees and a plane. But still, I was just a tiny bit underwhelmed as opposed to mass underwhelmed. This is a great episode. I approve a lot.